Hurricane Dorian, was its strength due to climate change? Why was it so destructive? This is by The Conversationists on Earth Sky. Dorian is the second most powerful Atlantic hurricane on record, and it's already devastated the Bahamas. Rescue work is getting underway. The most current updates on Dorian here on NOAA. This is by Dale Hominy House, University of Sydney, Australia. Dorian began its life as a small tropical depression southeast of the Lesser Antilles on August 24th, 2019. It grew to be a Category 5 hurricane, and it devastated the Bahamas. And at the time of this writing, it says Dorian has been downgraded now to a Category 2 storm. It's currently tracking northward parallel to the U.S. coast. Where Dorian decides to travel next is still hard to forecast. It does not look like Dorian will make landfall in the United States, but the U.S. National Hurricane Center currently expects it to turn towards northwards by Wednesday evening, followed by a turn towards north-northeast on Thursday morning local time. And on this track, the core of Hurricane Dorian will move dangerously close to Florida, East Coast, Georgia coast. Center of Dorian forecast to move near over South Carolina, North Carolina, Thursday, Friday morning. Dorian is the second most powerful Atlantic hurricane on record, packing sustained winds of more than 170 miles, that's 270 kilometers per hour, with peak gusts approaching 350 kilometers per hour, or that's 217 miles an hour. At its peak, the storm system has more than 400 miles or 700 kilometers in diameter, causing massive rainfall and a huge storm surge peaking at more than 23 feet above sea level. That's 7 meters above sea level. And they are both contributing to substantial flooding, of course. As a Category 2 storm, it still has 110 miles per hour winds, that's 177 kilometers per hour, and tremendous destructive capacity. As you can see from the image by PA Graphics, the Saffir-Simpson scale for measuring the size and effects of hurricanes in the Atlantic. The first scale, minimum no real structural damage but some flooding, is storm surge 4 to 5 feet, Category 1 74 to 95 miles per hour. Category 2 is 96 to 110 miles per hour, storm surge 6 to 8 feet. The moderate material damage to buildings, small craft break moorings. Category 3, 111 to 130 miles per hour, storm surge 9 to 12 feet. Extensive damage, structural damage to small houses and inland flooding. Category 4, 131 to 155 miles per hour, is 13 to 16 feet storm surge. As you can imagine, that's the basement of the first floor definitely gone. Extreme major structural damage and heavy flooding and evacuation is necessary. Category 5, over 155 miles per hour, and storm surge over 18 feet. That's a catastrophic hurricane. Massive damage to buildings, small structures blown over or away. The path of devastation as Dorian passed over the Bahamas, absolutely the worst scenario occurred. It more or less stopped dead in its tracks and stayed in that area. Slow-moving hurricanes do immense amounts of damage. Rather than moving on quickly, high winds, heavy rainfall, and large storm surges all combined, hammering the landscape and, of course, buildings, crucial infrastructure. Dorian set over the Bahamas for more than 20 hours, maximizing the amount of damage. It was there almost a whole day over that area. The death toll 7, Prime Minister Hubert Minnis, national and international emergency management agencies, and expect that it may rise. And they have recovery teams starting to gain access to heavily damaged areas. Aerial footage emerging of extensive damage across wide areas, total devastation of building structures, and massive impact, of course, on the natural environment. Is Dorian linked to climate change? Many people are understandably asking if there is a direct connection between human-induced climate change and Hurricane Dorian. The short answer is it's hard to say. And here's what we know. By adding greenhouse warming gases to the atmosphere, more heat is trapped in the atmosphere and oceans. Increasing heat equals increasing energy in the atmosphere-ocean system. And increased heat fuels extreme events such as hurricanes, heat waves, storms, and floods. A new science called attribution investigates the statistical probability that a particular event such as Hurricane Dorian is more likely in a human-warmed climate. And work is now underway to gather the data necessary to determine mathematically whether Dorian was likely connected to a warming world. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.